Welcome back to the Film Geek Halloween Special. Today I'm talking about the 1986 Stephen King film, Maximum Overdrive.
Honey, come on over here, sugar buns. This machine just called me an asshole.
Maximum Overdrive was written and directed by Stephen King, and it's starring Emilio Estevez, Pat Hingle, Laura Harrington, and Yeardley Smith. A group of people try to survive when machines suddenly become sentient and homicidal at the same time. Maximum Overdrive is the first and only film that Stephen King has directed, and he said about the experience in an interview that he was coked out of his mind all through its production and really didn't know what he was doing. On-set translator Roberto Croce didn't remember King's cocaine use, but recalls him drinking from early in the morning until late at night. I never saw, I didn't, but I did know he was a drunk, that at 6 o'clock in the morning we'd all have roll call and he's drinking beers, and by 8:30 he's on his 10th beer. Maximum Overdrive was released July 25th, 1986, and it made about $7.5 million worldwide on a $10 million budget. Critics weren't so happy with the film either, and it's currently sitting on Rotten Tomatoes at a 15%. However, the audience has it at a 50% because the film has gained a little bit of a cult following in the so bad it's good category. So what do I like about this movie? Okay, this movie is not good in the traditional sense. This is definitely a so bad it's good cult film, but it's not really that awful bad of a movie. Like, it's not completely unwatchable, and it's still a fun, entertaining movie. And really, that's all this movie is. It's pure fun. Don't go into this film expecting a serious horror film. This is a campy, over-the-top, very silly horror comedy. And I do think that was the intention from the very beginning. So a lot of the laughs and all in this film aren't necessarily of the unintentional variety. They're definitely there as jokes. So I really have never been able to figure out what the issue is with this film, why everybody's always been so hard on it. I've always really thought it was a lot of fun. The effects in this film are pretty decently convincing. You do have a sense that these machines are moving on their own. There's no points where you see the man behind the curtain, basically, unless you really look for him. Maybe if you really allow yourself to dive into it, you'll be able to see somebody trying to drive one of those semis. But honestly, I've never taken the time to try. So yeah, the effects in this film actually come off pretty decent for a low-budget, silly, campy horror movie. Maybe my love for this film is the fact that it came out when I was around 12 years old, and I remember my buddies and I renting this film and just having a blast watching it, laughing at the beginning of it, where Stephen King has the whole, "Hey, this machine called me an asshole." It's still one of my favorite scenes in a film to this day. I will always laugh at Stephen King looking at that ATM talking about how it called him an asshole. And that's just this movie. I've got a fondness for it because I've got a happy little childhood memory with it. Me and my buddies sitting around watching a movie about cars and semi-trucks coming to life and rolling people over. It was a great time, and it was a lot of fun with my friends, and then I gained a few good memories out of this. And honestly, you know what? Maybe Stephen King hates this film, and you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe the movie isn't as great as I think it is. But you know what, man? You know what? At the end of the day, Mr. King, you made a movie that brought me a bit of joy, and at the end of the day, isn't that all we're looking for? Just a little bit of joy. So thank you, Mr. King, for making this film, even though you really can't stand it, and a whole lot of other people can't stand it. I at least find some joy in it. One last thing I forgot to mention about this film is the soundtrack. If you are a fan of AC/DC, well, you are in luck because this movie is nothing but AC/DC. Let me say, that is another thing that's great about this film. The soundtrack really fits the tone of this movie. Let me say, AC/DC was the absolute perfect choice for a film about vehicles or machines in general coming to life and killing folks. From this point point on, I will always think of AC/DC anytime I see a semi-truck driving down the road. Alrighty, so if I've piqued your interest and you're curious about the movie Maximum Overdrive, well, you can find it out there for rent on Vudu, Google Movies, Amazon Prime, and Vudu. Okay guys, that brings us to the end of another Film Geek video. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.